The jungle didn't whisper. It breathed. Heavy, wet air pressed down over twisted trees and dense undergrowth. The scent of rot and sap lingered in every breath. Kalvaris was not a world made for humans. The gravity was heavier, the air thicker, and the wildlife didn't just defend territory. They hunted anything unfamiliar. A human wouldn't last a day here. And yet Derek Voss was still alive. He crouched in a shallow ditch beside the charred remains of his escape pod. The outer plating was scorched, edges warped from atmospheric entry. One wing was sheared clean off. A column of smoke rose into the canopy like a beacon for predators. He knew he had to move before nightfall, but he was hungry, exhausted, and the sharp pain in his right side hadn't faded since the crash 3 days ago. He peeled off his outer jacket and checked the bandage, a strip of thermal foil wrapped tight around his ribs, already dark with dried blood. Broken maybe, bruised at the very least. The medkit had fried on impact. No antibiotics, no painkillers. He took a shallow breath and looked up through the canopy. No sun, just dim violet haze above the trees. Kalvaris didn't have a traditional day-night cycle. The light came in pulses filtered through poisonous fog and bioluminescent plants that never stopped glowing. It was disorienting. That was the point. The Dominion had marked this planet uninhabitable for a reason. But Derek hadn't chosen to land here. He was meant to escort a scientific team to the Arcadia frontier. Private contract, ex-military, 2 months in and out, easy credits. Then something hit the cruiser. Hard. An engine failure, maybe sabotage. He never got a chance to find out. The scientists didn't make it. Their pods never deployed. Only his did. He reached into his belt pouch, pulled out a dull combat knife, and checked the blade. Still sharp. He'd survived the deserts of Arlo's 9, the gas storms of Novice Theta. He knew how to stay alive. Every instinct screamed to run, but he knew better. Running triggered pursuit. Panic killed more soldiers than bullets. His mind worked fast. The beast was circling the pod, curious, maybe drawn by the scent of blood, or the heat signature. Either way, it would find him soon. He didn't have the firepower to kill it outright. He needed precision. Surprise. A weakness. He scanned its body. The underarm area. Lighter plating. Exposed when it moved forward. He waited. The Vrackle let out a low, vibrating hiss and stepped toward the pod. Its forelimbs reached into the wreckage, claws scraping metal. Derek moved. He sprinted low, every muscle timed, every step silent. As the creature raised its arm, he drove the spear forward, hard, right into the armpit. It screamed. The jungle echoed with a raw, metallic roar. The spear snapped. Acidic blood sprayed, searing into Derek's arm and cheek. He fell back, teeth gritted against the pain. His shirt was off. Blood had dried on his torso in dark streaks. The acid burns along his left side stung with every breath, but he didn't flinch. His focus stayed on the fire, the meat, and the perimeter. He'd learned the jungle's rhythm. Every hour, something tried to kill him. Every moment, his mind had to stay sharp. No distractions. No hope. Just survival. The smell of cooked meat filled the clearing. And in the shadows above, Leora Zen watched. She didn't move. Her boots were anchored to a high branch, her armor in full adaptive mode, blending into the foliage. She had been observing the human for 20 minutes now, long enough to verify the readings weren't a mistake. This was not a Dominion outpost, not a sanctioned mission zone, but Dominion satellites had picked up anomalous signals, heat flares, energy signatures. Her scout vessel was redirected to investigate. Leora expected to find smuggler camps or crash debris. She didn't expect this. And the Dominion doesn't like anomalies. They prefer explanations that fit neatly in reports. You don't. He nodded. So what now? She paused before answering. Now I observe. Observe. I'll stay here. With you. Watch. Document. Understand. Derek raised an eyebrow. Like a science project? Like a threat assessment. If you're dangerous, I need to know. If you're not, I still need to know why you're alive. He leaned forward. And if I say no, you don't get a choice. The fire cracked. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Derek sighed. Fine. You can watch. But don't get in my way. And don't touch my traps. Understood. She removed her helmet and sat on a stone. Her hair was jet black, pulled into a tight braid that fell across her back. Without the helmet, her expression looked sharper. Her jaw was angled, eyes narrow and intelligent. Not cold, but alert. Ready. He studied her, just as she had studied him. My ship won't check back for 48 hours. Derek looked up. You're staying. I want to understand how you survived this long. The truth. Not just for my report for me. He nodded once. That was all. She leaned back against a rock, armor still on, but her shoulders were no longer tense. Her rifle rested beside her instead of across her lap. Trust wasn't spoken. It was observed. As the jungle shifted into its night cycle, distant howls echoed through the trees. Derek sharpened his blade by firelight. Leora watched the flames reflect in the curve of the knife. The planet was still deadly. Nothing had changed that. But something had changed between them. Small, unspoken, real, and neither of them were ready to name it. Not yet, but they both felt it growing inch by inch inside the silence. The night dragged on with no moon, no stars, just dense fog and the steady pulse of bioluminescent vines crawling up the canopy. The fire had long since burned to coals. She returned to camp and sat against the shelter wall. Derek opened one eye. Something's coming, he asked quietly. Something's moving. Not close. Not yet. He sat up, wiped his face, then pulled a cloth from a pouch and started cleaning the blade. We got maybe 12 hours before the wind shifts. After that, we'll lose scent cover. They'll pick up the kill site. Leora nodded. Then we need to move camp. We need higher ground, he said. North Ridge. I scouted it on day 11. Natural barrier, less thermal exposure. We can make it by nightfall tomorrow. She paused. You've been planning this retreat for weeks. Always had a backup plan, Derek muttered. Just didn't have anyone to tell. For the next 2 hours, they packed in silence. Derek stripped usable wiring from the pod, wrapped it into a coil, then bundled the remaining dried meat. Leora secured her drone module and synced the rest of her logs for encrypted satellite upload. Leora considered that. If someone tampered with a science vessel in Dominion-controlled space, it suggested something far more deliberate. That possibility had not been in her original mission profile. You think the Dominion was involved? I don't know who did it, Derek said plainly. But the minute I hit this planet, I stopped caring about that. Survival became the only priority. They reached a clearing marked by bone fragments and claw marks across a wide tree trunk. Derek knelt to inspect a set of footprints. Three-toed, deep-set, recent. Another Vrackle? Leora asked. No, he muttered. Too light. Maybe one of the stalkers. Stalkers? Camouflaged predators. Move in packs of 3. Lure you with sound, then cut your legs from under you. You've seen them. Seen one. Killed one. Never saw the other 2. She crouched beside him. You've killed multiple predator-class species with a knife and trap wire. You realize how absurd that sounds. Yeah, it ended for me when I buried my last friend on Delphan Ridge. He stood slowly, testing his leg, and limped toward the cave entrance. The wind hit his face, warm, sour, full of spores. He didn't flinch. Leora followed him outside. You don't get it, do you? He glanced at her. You're not just a survivor, she said. You're evidence. You're a threat to the narrative both sides need to keep quiet. If I report exactly what I found here, the Dominion will silence you. The Federation will deny you. Either way, you disappear. And if you don't report it, he asked, I break protocol. I burn my clearance. Maybe my career. Why? Her answer came quietly. Because I believe you. Derek's jaw flexed slightly. He looked away. He hadn't heard those words in a long time. Certainly not from anyone with authority. I don't need you to risk everything for me, he said, not unkindly. She stepped closer. You don't get to decide that. A long moment passed between them. Close. Still. Command expects a recon update, she said. My logs are overdue. They'll assume the signal was interrupted, not suspicious. I bought us time, but not much. How long before they come looking? If they send anyone, 3 days minimum. But that depends on what I report. And what will you report? That depends on you. Derek leaned his head back against the rock and closed his eyes for a second. I didn't ask you to protect me. I'm not protecting you, she replied. I'm protecting what your story represents. He turned back to her, serious. What do you mean? You said someone ejected your pod deliberately. That ship was carrying black tier cargo into Dominion-controlled space. That's not a coincidence. It's a message. The question is, who was sending it? Derek stayed silent. She pressed, her voice low. Do you think the Federation was trying to bait the Dominion? I don't know, he admitted. And right now, I don't care. That war's not mine anymore. Military pattern. 2 clicks out. She activated the failsafe on her wrist console. I've locked the data stream. If they kill us, the signal still goes out. Derek handed her the last rifle from the pack. Cover the east ridge. I'll take the front. Fogg crouched behind the rocks, eyes wide. For the first time since arriving, he looked genuinely afraid. The ship broke through the canopy like a spear. Dark gray, silent thrusters, side hatches already open. Ropes dropped. For soldiers descended. All wore non-standard armor. No flags. No identifiers. They weren't here for negotiations. Derek opened fire first, controlled precise bursts. One soldier fell. Leora moved like lightning, flanking them along the ridge, her aim flawless. Another dropped. The third fired a scatter pulse, hitting Derek in the side. He felt his knees, teeth clenched, coughing blood, but stayed upright. Fogg froze, gun in hand, but useless. Leora saw it. Cover him, damn it. But Fogg couldn't move. The jungle wanted him dead. That made them even. A sudden sound caught his attention. Branches cracking. Slow. Deliberate. He tensed and dropped flat into the foliage, heartbeat rising. The noise moved to his left, something heavy brushing past thick vines. He reached for the makeshift spear he'd carved the night before and crawled silently over the soft earth. Then he saw it, a vrackle beast. Its spiny limbs moved like they were jointed wrong. 6 legs, armored shoulders, thick barbed claws. Its back pulsed with breathing sacs that expanded and contracted slowly. Eyes, 6 of them, scanned the terrain in overlapping arcs. It was sniffing, tracking. The Dominion file said these things could slice through exo-armor and tear open transport hulls. The perfect apex predator. Their reports also said Vrackle hunted in 2s or 3s. Derek saw only 1. Still, that didn't make it any less lethal. He clenched his jaw. His entire body burned with tension. If we reach it, we can upload Fox logs and the ship's encrypted fragments from your escape pod. And send it to who? Someone I trust. Someone who's already on thin ice with the Dominion. If he gets it, the truth survives, even if we don't. Derek nodded. Then we move at first light. As they prepared their gear in silence, Leora paused. Then softly, if you die, this all dies with you. He looked at her, steady. Then I won't die. She smiled faintly, just for a second. He meant it, and she wanted to believe it. Dawn broke in fractured shades of gray-blue, painting the jungle canopy in cold light. Fog curled around the trees, clinging to branches like waiting fingers. The silence was deeper than usual. Every bird call, every rustle, felt muted, smothered. Derek led the group north, moving at a steady but cautious pace. Leora followed close behind, checking the trail for heat or EM signatures. Falk brought up the rear, limping slightly but holding his rifle ready. Leora Zen remained across from him, seated on a collapsed root, one hand resting near the hilt of her sheathed blade. Her eyes hadn't left him for more than a few seconds at a time. Neither spoke. They both knew the silence wasn't awkward. It was intentional, calculated. She broke it first. How long have you been here? 21 days, Derek answered without hesitation. Give or take. Her brow furrowed. That's impossible. A human shouldn't last more than 72 hours here. No suit. No air filters. The atmosphere rots your lungs, burns your skin, fogs your head. I know, he interrupted, but it didn't kill me. Leora tilted her head slightly, curious. Ow! Trained for environments like this. Ex-military recon. Arcadia region. 2 rotations. They dumped us on Hell Worlds and told us to make it back with 1 eye and half a lung. I got good at staying alive. Good enough to kill a Vrackle? That's stupid. Leora didn't react. My mission was reconnaissance. Track the energy spike. Survey life form anomalies. Report findings. I didn't plan on meeting a human playing apex predator. He shrugged. Neither did I. But plans die fast out here. She stood and stepped closer to the fire, examining the meat again, then looked up. Do you even know what part of the system you're in? No NAV systems left. I've been flying blind since the crash. You're near Dominion Sector 7G. Deep territory. Technically, this is restricted. No human vessels are allowed within one jump of this system. I didn't plan the landing. Then who did? He paused. Leora caught the hesitation. I'm not sure, he admitted. Something hit us in orbit. Hard. Knocked power from the bridge, jammed escape systems. I wasn't even supposed to be on that ship. Freelance escort. Short-term contract. What was the ship's name? Vigilance Dawn. Leora's expression changed. For both of them, this wasn't just survival anymore. It was control. Boundaries. Learning what the other was capable of. And somewhere beneath the caution, there was something else. Not trust. Not yet. But awareness. Mutual. As the fire burned lower, Derek stretched out onto a patch of dry moss, knife still gripped in one hand. Leora sat with her back to a rock, armor partially disengaged for comfort, eyes still on the shadows. Kalvaris didn't sleep, and tonight, neither would they. But for the first time in 21 days, Derek Voss wasn't completely alone, and Leora's Inn wasn't entirely sure that was a good thing. Morning came slowly on Kalvaris, if it could be called morning at all. The sky turned a slightly paler shade of violet. The canopy above filtered the light into long, blue-tinted beams that made everything below shimmer with moisture and motion. The jungle didn't wake up. It simply changed its rhythm. She returned to her log silently, tapping data tags into her HUD as Derek stood and walked a slow circle around the perimeter. She watched him scan the tree-line, adjusting a few branch traps, simple, brutal devices made of sharpened wood and pressure lines. It wasn't just survival. It was discipline. Why haven't you called for evac? She asked. He stopped. I did. Beacon's dead. Even if it wasn't, nobody's coming. You said it yourself. This zone's off limits. You assumed that meant no help? I assumed the cost of rescue outweighed the cost of forgetting. She didn't respond to that. The logic stung because it made sense. The Dominion had made similar decisions, left assets behind in war zones to avoid political entanglement. It wasn't personal. It was strategic. Derek walked back and sat down. What about you? You go to report me. Should I? I'm not here to fight you. She considered that. You're an anomaly, she said finally. She looked at it, then at him. No poison, he said. I've been eating it for 2 days. She hesitated, then accepted. The taste was bitter and dense. Her face tightened slightly. You get used to it, he muttered. They sat across from each other. The fire crackled between them. For the first time in days, Derek let himself feel something beyond calculation. The pressure in his chest didn't vanish, but it shifted. This wasn't a rescue. It wasn't a reunion. It was something else. A new variable. One he couldn't control. She was watching him. Not as a soldier. Not as an enemy. But as something she didn't understand. Derek didn't trust her. Not yet. But she hadn't drawn her blade. And for now, that was enough. The fire had dimmed to glowing embers, casting a low orange light that flickered across their faces. Derek sat with his elbows on his knees, staring into the coals. He looked at the creature's corpse, the flesh now cooled and blackened near the fire. The first one almost took my arm off. I studied the second, took the third cleanly. You studied a Vrackle? Derek gave a faint, dry smile. You'd be surprised what you learn when you stop screaming and start thinking. Leora didn't respond, but her gaze lingered on his face. The acid burn on his jaw had blistered but not cracked. He hadn't flinched once since she arrived. He hadn't asked for rescue, medical aid, or orders. That unsettled her more than she admitted. She tapped her visor to record a short field log, voice low and private. Subject, Derek Voss. Human male. Physically adapted to Class 4 toxic environment without augmentation. Displays behavioral control, survival intelligence, and high threat tolerance. Unclear mental stability. Proceeding with caution. He noticed. Logame, huh? Standard protocol, she said calmly. He nodded. You here alone? Yes. The drone wouldn't launch until she manually activated it. She wasn't ready to send the report yet. Not until she had answers. As they moved into the jungle, Leora finally broke the silence. There's something you haven't told me. Derek didn't stop walking. There's a lot I haven't told you. I'm not asking about your past, she continued. I'm asking about the ship. Vigilance Dawn. You said it was a science vessel, but I accessed Dominion archives this morning. That ship had an unauthorized payload. Derek stopped. You checked my ship? I checked the truth. He turned slowly. And what did you find? That it wasn't just a survey run. It was transporting unknown cargo. Shielded. Logged under private access codes. Earth Federation Black Tier. Derek exhaled hard through his nose. His grip on the wire coil tightened. I didn't know that until after the crash, he said flatly. I wasn't told. I wasn't briefed. I was hired as muscle, standard contract. She absorbed that. You think I'm here to kill you? He looked up, met her eyes. I think you're here to decide. Leora didn't respond immediately. That wasn't a simple question, and she knew it. Dominion protocol would dictate that Derek be classified as a rogue element, an unregistered human in a restricted zone. At best, he'd be extracted and detained. At worst, sterilized records and a shallow grave. But he hadn't threatened her. He hadn't lied. And the fact that he was still alive meant something. Maybe something important. You're not what I expected, she admitted. Neither are you. She sat across from him on a collapsed root. Her posture remained formal, but something in her voice softened. I need to ask you something. Go ahead. Back on the ship, you said you were just a freelance escort. But your field instincts, your combat posture, your discipline, it's military. High tier. What unit? Derek hesitated. For a moment, he looked away. I just remember what tried to kill me and how I stopped it. He pulled on what was left of his shirt, ripped down the side, dark with dried blood, and stood to check the nearest trap. It had been triggered. The weight plate cracked, but whatever it caught had wriggled free. He reset it in silence. Leora watched him. There was no wasted motion. Every step was deliberate. She hadn't seen that kind of self-reliance in a long time, especially not from unarmored civilians. She followed him deeper into the jungle. I reviewed Dominion telemetry logs from the day of your crash. There was no mention of orbital debris or hostile intercept. Maybe you were looking in the wrong quadrant, Derek replied as he hacked away thick vines with his knife. Or maybe someone didn't want you to see it. She stopped. You think it was sabotage? I know it wasn't natural. The Vigilance Dawn had redundant shielding. For something to break through that cleanly, it wasn't an accident. Then you stop following orders and start asking the right questions. Their eyes locked. There was something raw between them now. Not anger, not even disagreement. Just wait. Mutual understanding. The kind that only comes from standing at the edge of something and deciding not to jump alone. As they reached the crest of the ridge, Derek led them into a cave sheltered beneath a slab of volcanic rock. It was dry, cold, safe. He dropped his pack with a grunt and sat heavily, his shirt dark with sweat. We hold here tonight. Leora knelt beside him, finally ignoring his earlier protest, and gently lifted the shirt. He didn't stop her this time. The wound was angry, reddened, and inflamed. The makeshift bandage had stuck to the skin. She poured a vial of biofoam onto the gash, and he winced, clenching his jaw but saying nothing. You waited too long, she muttered. Didn't have many options. You have one now. He looked at her, eyes steady. It wasn't coming closer. Yet, inside, Derek sat with his back against the stone wall, rewrapping his side. The biofoam had reduced the swelling, but pain still flared every time he moved. He kept his mouth shut. No groaning, no breath hissing through teeth. It was the kind of pain he was used to carrying without noise. Leora finally spoke. We got about 6 hours before that mass loop swings back toward the valley. Could be Vrackle, could be something worse. Derek nodded. We stay here today. Move again at dusk. She glanced over her shoulder. You still thinking like a soldier? He looked up. You still thinking like you're just observing? There was a pause. Then she walked inside, powered down her visor, and sat across from him. I'm not observing anymore, she said flatly. Derek studied her face. Then what are you doing? Leora didn't answer immediately. She pulled a nutrient capsule from her belt and cracked it open, offering half to him. He accepted it with a nod. Derek's breathing grew heavier with each step, but he didn't complain. Leora noticed the way he favored his right side. The injury hadn't improved, but he hadn't once asked her for help. She stopped suddenly. "Let me see your ribs." "No." "Derek." I said no. He turned away and kept walking. She followed, silent for a while. Then she said something unexpected. "I lost a squad mate last year. Similar op crashed on Jortal 6. Poison storms, sub-zero nights. We made it 4 days before I had a call for full evac. Only 2 of us got out." Derek didn't look at her, but she knew he was listening. "I ran simulations afterward. Hundreds. Try to see if I could have done something different. Faster medkit access. Different escape route. Every time, same result. Dead." "What's your point?" he asked. "My point is, survival isn't strength. It's choices. Ones you have to live with." He stopped walking again, finally turning back to face her. "And what if the choices you had were lies?" "I haven't seen anything like that." Leora activated her HUD and began inputting Fox's description. "Unknown contact. Possible Dominion bioweapon." Derek asked quietly. She looked at him. There were rumors of test deployments, years ago. Abandoned programs. But if this is something active, then we're not just dealing with predators or accidents. "Then we're sitting on a board neither of us sees," Derek muttered. Falk finally spoke again. "There's something else. Before I lost comms, I received a partial transmission from the Vigilance Dawn. It wasn't a distress call. It was a containment order." Leora stiffened. "For what?" "I don't know. But the logs were locked. Black level encryption. Earth side." Derek stood up, pacing now. "That cargo, it wasn't scientific. It was controlled. That's why I was ejected." Leora's voice was low. "They were trying to destroy the evidence. And we both survived," Derek said, nodding toward Falk. "That makes us liabilities." Leora removed her glove, pressed her cool hand gently against his side. "You're not alone here anymore." Derek didn't answer, but he didn't look away either. Outside, a low howl rolled through the forest. Something big was circling the lower trails. The jungle would never stop trying to kill them. But for now, in this cave, surrounded by cold stone and silence, there was a moment of stillness. Not trust, not love, but understanding. And in this world, that was already more than either of them expected to find. The morning mist hung thick over the ridge, dense and slow-moving like a smothering blanket. The jungle below them hissed, gurgled, and roared with life. But up here, above most of it, the world felt unnaturally quiet. Leora knelt outside the cave entrance, visor active, scanning thermal pockets along the slope. The system pinged a few animal clusters, non-aggressive, but flagged one moving heat mass half a kilometer west, too large and erratic to classify. The tension wasn't just physical. It was structural. 2 people standing on opposite ends of a collapsing bridge, daring the other to take the next step. Then the warning ping from her visor broke the moment. Leora snapped her head west, activated full visual. Motion, 200 meters. Closing fast. Derek drew his blade instinctively. "How many?" "1. Fast. On foot." He exhaled. "Not a beast, then. Something smarter." They scrambled down the ridge wall, dropping behind a rocky ledge. Leora raised her weapon, fingers steady. Derek crouched beside her, every nerve on edge. Through the trees, a dark silhouette broke the foliage. Humanoid, armored, limping. Leora's breath caught. Derek narrowed his eyes. "You recognize the armor?" "Federation. Scout issue. Outdated." As the figure collapsed forward into the clearing, Derek moved. "Derek, wait." He reached the body and rolled it over. Face bloodied, breathing shallow, but alive. Male. Light skin. Short hair. Whether Earth's black operatives would retaliate. They didn't need to, because for the first time in weeks, the truth was free. And survival wasn't just instinct anymore. It was a choice made together. 2 days passed since the relay transmission. No more patrols came. No ships appeared in the skies. No orders. No missiles. Nothing. Silence was its own kind of answer. Derek sat by the fire again. Only this time, he wasn't watching his back. His weapons were nearby, but his posture was relaxed. Beside him, Leora finished securing the last of the rations into sealed packs. Her Dominion armor lay folded in a corner, inert. She wore a lightweight field jacket now, something she'd found in the crash debris and stitched to fit. A symbol of choice. Falk was cleaning the last of the mud off a solar battery unit, no longer shaking. His face was drawn, quieter now, but there was clarity behind his eyes. He had asked for forgiveness the night before. Not with excuses, just with action. Collar tag read, Lieutenant Arden Falk. Federation ID confirmed. Derek stood back, stunned. He was on my ship. Leora stared down at the unconscious man. Then someone else survived. More questions now. More moving parts. But one thing had changed. They were no longer alone. And that meant everything was about to escalate. Falk didn't wake up for nearly 2 hours. Leora had stabilized him with an emergency dermal patch and injected him with a stimulant. Derek sat beside the fire, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the unconscious soldier. He hadn't said much since Falk's arrival. His mind was moving too fast. Leora could see it in his posture, in his silence. When Falk finally stirred, his eyes darted wide with panic. He tried to sit up. Derek pushed him gently back down. "You're safe," Derek said. "You're off the trail. You're not being followed." Falk blinked rapidly. "Voss, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me." Leora stood nearby, arms crossed. She didn't lower her guard. She took it. Later that evening, Falk finished rewiring the last of the landing beacon from Leora's drone system. It wouldn't call a warship, but it would send a private signal, encrypted, on an unregistered civilian frequency. They had one destination in mind, Calida Station, edge of the civilian trade zone. A place full of people who didn't ask questions, who sold new names, and who knew how to erase the past. Leora uploaded coordinates. Derek stashed the relay drive into a sealed pouch, zipped it into his chest harness, and turned to her. "Once we get there," he said, "what do you want to do?" She thought about it for a moment. "Then breathe. Eat food that isn't smoked Monster Heart. Maybe get a room with a window." Derek grinned. "I hear windows are overrated. Not if you spent 3 weeks staring at fog and teeth." They both laughed, quiet but genuine. As the signal beacon pulsed upward into the sky, a reply light blinked once. "Acknowledged." Falk looked between them. "Then why is she helping you?" It was a fair question. Leora answered, "Because facts matter, and because someone above me wants this buried. That means it's worth exposing." But the weight of that decision was now heavier. She could no longer report this as a minor anomaly. She was harboring 2 survivors, one of whom, Derek, was officially classified as missing, the other now a potential whistleblower. And the Dominion wouldn't look kindly on either. Later that evening, while Falk rested inside the cave, Derek and Leora stood watch outside. The ridge was quiet, too quiet. Derek broke the silence. "You sure you're ready for what's coming? What do you think is coming?" He looked into the trees. "Either your people find us, or mine do. Neither will ask questions." Leora nodded. "They won't come to rescue. They'll come to silence." She hesitated, then added something she hadn't told him yet. "No inquiry. Just another name wiped from a roster. Then maybe disappearing is what you earned." Leora turned away from him, took a breath, and faced the console. "The relay's online. I can send the logs now. But once I do, the signal will light us up like a flare. They'll be here within the hour." Derek didn't hesitate. "Send it." She stared at him. "Are you sure? We die either way. But if that data gets out, someone has to answer for what happened." Leora tapped her pad. The relay hummed to life. A green light blinked. The upload began. Inside the tower, ancient transmitters screamed to life. Derek stood over Falk, still breathing heavy, knife in hand. "You run, I'll kill you. You talk, I'll shut you up. We're done with surprises." Falk didn't argue. 22 minutes later, a new sound reached them. Distant engines cutting through the clouds. Not wildlife. Not weather. A ship. Low altitude. Fast approach. Leora's visor pinged. Dropship. No insignia. No ID. His voice was steady, but his muscles were coiled, ready to strike. She stepped forward, letting her armor shimmer into visibility. "You're not authorized to be here." He didn't lower the blade. Neither are you. Dominion Recon, she said. I'm Leora Zen. He nodded once. Derek Voss. They stared at each other across the fire. Leora's gaze shifted to the Vrackle corpse. You killed that. Yeah. And you're eating it. Better than starving. She stepped closer. He didn't back away. I've seen patrols gutted by one of these, she said. You're lucky. Derek's expression didn't change. Luck didn't do this. The wind shifted. Smoke rolled between them. Leora tilted her head slightly, analyzing him. This wasn't a civilian. His hands moved like a soldier. His eyes tracked every detail. But he wasn't following protocol. No distress beacon. No request for extraction. He was surviving by instinct. He reached out, offering her a piece of roasted meat. A single human male, half naked, roasting the heart of a Vrackle beast. The Dominion revered these predators. Feared them. Even with full weapon systems, patrol teams were instructed to avoid engagement. The thought of a lone, unarmored human killing one was inconceivable. Yet there he was. He didn't act like a man in shock. He didn't look desperate. If anything, he seemed calm, settled, dangerous. Leora zoomed in through her visor. Muscular build, scar tissue along the arms. Combat tattoos, Earth military, classified unit. His name appeared in her HUD after a quick scan, Derek Voss. Former infantry recon, discharged 6 years ago. No known reactivation. What was he doing here? She narrowed her eyes. Dominion protocol demanded immediate contact, but something held her back. Curiosity, doubt, maybe instinct. She descended slowly, staying in cover, blade in hand. A snap echoed under her boot. Derek stood immediately, knife drawn, eyes alert. Who's there? The beast turned, clawed wildly, but its front leg gave out. It stumbled, lost balance, collapsed into the mud. Derek drew his knife and circled it, watching carefully. No sudden movements, no arrogance. Even dying, a Vrackle could kill. The creature heaved once, then twice, then went still. Derek stood over it, breathing heavily. His heart pounded against his ribs. Sweat poured down his spine. Every nerve felt electric. He was still alive. He stared down at the beast for a long moment, then dropped to his knees beside it and began cutting. He didn't know how much longer he'd be on this planet. Maybe days, maybe weeks. But he had meat now. Acid-resistant organs. Energy. He didn't care how disgusting it tasted. It was fuel, and he needed it. By night, or what passed for night, he had built a fire. Thin branches. Resin sap to ignite. The flames popped with purple smoke. He set up a crude spit using scavenged metal rods and mounted the Vrackle's heart over the heat. Living it was worse. She didn't laugh. She wasn't the type. But her eyes lingered on him, longer than they needed to. They continued their patrol, Leora uploading visual records and DNA traces into her field module. Derek didn't ask what she planned to do with the data. He didn't need to. She was Dominion. She had orders, even if they shifted after meeting him. Back at the camp, he started preparing a new shelter, stronger cover, better heat insulation. He stripped the outer plating from the escape pod, reshaped the titanium panels into an angled lean-to, reinforced with thick jungle roots. Leora watched him bend metal with slow, steady strength. "Why haven't you tried reaching another outpost?" she asked finally. "I don't know where I am," he replied, not pausing. "I don't know who's listening. Broadcasting a signal might bring help, or it might bring something worse. You don't trust the Dominion?" "I don't trust anyone who shows up with a blade before they say hello." Derek Voss opened his eyes the moment the jungle's tone shifted, not because of any alarm or noise, but because his instincts never truly let him sleep. His body ached from the cold ground, his shoulder burned from where acid had splashed, and his ribs throbbed beneath the crude wrapping. But his mind was clear. He scanned the perimeter. Leora was awake, standing on a thick root several meters away, visor down, scanning the tree line. Her armor pulsed faintly with energy as it re-engaged fully. She'd been on partial rest mode through the night, just as alert as he had been. He sat up slowly, keeping his breathing shallow. Anything move? She didn't look back. 2 life forms skirted the clearing. Heat signatures disappeared before I could tag them. Too small to be Vrackle. Probably the tree splitters. They dig nests near the steam vents. Not aggressive, unless cornered. She finally turned. You've cataloged species? Not officially. That ship was listed as lost during a deep space charting mission 3 weeks ago. Derek looked at her. So they wrote us off that fast. There was no signal, no debris trail. It was assumed destroyed. He leaned back against a rock, jaw clenched. Figures. She studied him again. His reaction wasn't theatrical. No panic, no disbelief. Just a tight exhale, as if it merely confirmed what he already knew. What about you, he asked. You always fly into death world alone. I volunteered, she said plainly. Recon is quiet, clean, most of the time. Until today. He nodded slowly. Your Dominion military? Scout Division. Tier 4. That armor looks expensive. It is. And adaptive. Unlike you, I don't need to roll in mud to survive. Derek grinned faintly. Maybe not, but you'd smell a hell of a lot better if you did. That earned the smallest upward twitch of her mouth. Barely noticeable, but it was there. Derek lay half awake inside the shelter, knife resting on his chest. Leora sat outside on watch, visor off, weapon idle in her lap, but her thoughts turning. He was more than just a survivor. Everything about him, from how he moved to the way he listened, calculated, anticipated, spoke of high-level conditioning. What he said about his past matched up, but only partially. A soldier that effective didn't simply vanish in a contract work unless something had broken loose inside him. She hadn't seen fear in his eyes, not once. But she had seen hesitation, pain, deep and hidden. That kind of quiet damage doesn't come from survival alone. It comes from betrayal. Leora rose silently and circled the perimeter, eyes sweeping the tree line for movement. Her internal HUD ticked softly as she marked new readings. Heat blooms, chemical traces, subtle vibrations from the forest floor. There was a shift in the wildlife. The jungle was getting louder again. Predators were moving. But something about that cargo, whatever it was, made us a target. What happened after impact? She pressed. You said the scientists didn't make it. They didn't. But they weren't all civilians. One of them, Dr. Halperin, was former military intelligence. She locked herself in a lab module before the drop. The others panicked. No chain of command. No plan. And you? I tried to help. Pulled 2 of them from the fire. Couldn't reach the others. Then the pod ejected without warning. I didn't activate it. It launched on its own. Like someone wanted me out of the blast zone. Leora's mind raced. That cargo, the sabotage, the fact that Derek had been ejected rather than killed. It was deliberate. Whatever was on that ship, she said, it wasn't meant to reach Dominion space. No, he agreed. And now I'm the only one who knows it ever did. A long pause followed as they climbed over a ridge covered in moss and razor-leaf ferns. The elevation gain was steady. Not because he was hiding something, but because the memory cut deeper than he expected. 4th Special Recon Group, Earth Federation, disbanded after the Zarn Offensive. That was 10 years ago. Yeah, and since then, went dark. Got tired of fighting other people's wars. Started working under civilian flags. Quiet contracts. Less attention. She nodded slowly. You saw a real war. I saw too much of it. He stood again, jaw tight. The subject clearly closed. But Leora didn't press. She understood that look. She'd seen it in her own men. The kind of grief that never made it to the surface, but never truly left either. As dusk returned, more shadow than light, Derek lit the fire again. This time, Leora helped prepare the food. She used her field knife to slice the stalker meat, while he boiled roots in a salvaged alloy container. They ate in silence. No arguments. No pretense. Afterward, she spoke softly. I filed a delay report. Yesterday, before we left the lower camp, my drone transmitted a location ping. Derek looked sharply at her. It was on a delay cycle, she explained. I set it to send coordinates if I didn't manually override in 24 hours. When? 10 hours ago. So they're already en route. She nodded. If they responded immediately, we have maybe 14 hours before a patrol ship enters orbit. Derek ran a hand through his hair. Then we don't have time. What do you want to do? He turned toward her, voice calm but direct. I want to survive. Again. But this time not just for me. Leora didn't speak. She looked at him, really looked. The scars. The patience. The fire behind a calculation. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a man who had nothing left to lose, and yet somehow still chose to protect. I have an idea, she said finally. There's a deep comm relay buried in the cliffs northeast. Dominion tech, older generation. Off the main grid. Lieutenant Falk, she said firmly. You're on Dominion soil. I need to know how you got here. Falk's eyes locked on her armor. His throat tightened. You're Velkire military. Yes. Recon. Now, answer the question. Falk groaned as he tried to sit up again. Derek helped him. We were hit. Hard. Didn't see what it was. Everything went white. I woke up during freefall. Emergency ejection fired late. No NAV systems. Just trees and fire. I thought I was the only one left. Derek handed him a water capsule. You've been here how long? 17 days. Lost my kit after the second night. Spent most of the time underground. Something was following me. Something big. Vrackle? Derek asked. Fox shook his head. No. Smarter. Quieter. That got Leora's attention. Describe it. 2 meters tall. Exoskeletal plating. Movements were patterned. Stalked in intervals like it was studying me. Never attacked. Just circled. Every night. Derek's eyes narrowed. A ship was on its way. They didn't speak again that night. They just sat under the starlit sky. Real stars, not sensors or HUD overlays. And for the first time since their crash, they allowed themselves the smallest thing. Stillness. Not as enemies. Not as soldiers. Not as survivors. But as two people who had found something unthinkable in the middle of a jungle designed to kill them both. Connection. A truth stronger than silence. And a future waiting just beyond the trees. Derek pulled his knife, charged low, tackled the last soldier in a brutal grapple. They rolled, fought, screamed. The knife buried deep into the soldier's neck. Blood sprayed. Silence followed. Smoke drifted across the clearing. 2 of the attackers lay still. One gasped faintly, then died. Derek stood slowly, breath ragged, shirt soaked in red. Leora rushed to him, caught his shoulder. I'm fine, he said. Just need air. The data's still transmitting, she confirmed. Another 30 seconds. Fox sank to the ground, shaking. Leora stared at him coldly. Next time, remember whose life you almost sold. Then the relay pinged. Upload complete. The signal was out. Derek looked at Leora, and for the first time since they met, his voice was steady, not with discipline, but with hope. We did it. She smiled, tired, real, unguarded. Yeah, we did. They didn't speak about what would happen next, whether Dominion forces would come. The way his fingers moved to his hip, not for balance, but for the concealed beacon strapped beneath his belt. Derek moved fast, too fast for Falk to react. He slammed him against the tower, ripped the beacon free, and threw it against a rock. It shattered. Are you insane? Derek barked. Falk grimaced, breathing hard. They were coming anyway. You called them here? I didn't think I'd survive, he spat. They promised immunity. Extraction. You don't know what you're sitting on, Voss. That cargo wasn't just Federation Black Level. It was cross-faction. Dominion and Earth were experimenting together. And now both sides wanted erased. Derek's voice dropped cold. And you just handed them a target. Leora stood slowly, eyes hard. You were willing to risk all of us. I was ordered to. You followed an order that kills 3 people to protect a file? She snapped. Fox's face twisted. You think the Dominion's better? If I don't follow orders, I disappear. No records. The cliffs came into view just past midday, a jagged wall of black stone, streaked with vines and slick moss. At its base, half covered in roots and dust, was a rusted Dominion relay tower. The structure stood barely 7 meters tall, most of it sunken into the hillside, power core long dead, but the transmission uplink was still intact. Leora approached the base console, brushing aside debris. It's offline. No main grid connection. Can you bypass? Derek asked. With luck, yes. She dropped to one knee, removed a toolkit from her pack, and began working fast, removing the access panel, rerouting corrosion-worn circuits. I just needed to stay stable long enough for one encrypted upload. Derek looked to Falk. You still have a memory stick? Falk hesitated. Yeah, but his tone was off. Too casual. Leora glanced up. Falk. He didn't answer. Then everything shifted. Derek saw it first, a twitch in Falk's wrist. He'd volunteered to carry the heaviest gear when they moved camp again. He hadn't asked for trust, but he worked like someone who knew it needed to be rebuilt. Leora glanced at Derek. You think they'll come eventually? He shook his head. Not now. The signal went out. It's public. Any strike team now would be a bigger scandal than the data leak. They'll bury it quietly, discredit us. But they won't risk another body count. She nodded. So we're ghosts. Not ghosts, Derek said, looking her in the eyes. Just free. She studied his face. The way the shadows didn't hide him anymore. The lines were still there, the scars, the tiredness, but now they were marks of experience, not isolation. I'm not going back, she said finally. He didn't look surprised. Didn't think you would. They'll strip my clearance. Cut my records. Then I guess you'll need a new name. She smiled. Something simple. Quiet. No titles. He extended a hand. Welcome to the ranks of nobodies.